I'm Zita Janji, head of Microsoft D365 at Digital Gurus, and welcome to our International Women's Day series, where we are shining a light on women in the Microsoft and D365 space. And today I am very excited to be joined by Margaret Totton. Margaret, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course, thank you for such a lovely warm welcome. I'm Margaret Totton, although everyone except my husband calls me Mags, and I'm the Chief Revenue Officer over at Yabrio, which is a fintech open banking ISV in the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem. I've spent the last 2 decades founding, scaling and exiting tech businesses in the Microsoft partner space, and alongside that, I'm also on the board of Scotland Women in Technology and the IAMCP UK and Ireland for Diversity and Inclusion.
Incredible. Love that. Thanks, Margaret. And just going on to that, you have successfully founded, grown, and exited multiple tech businesses as a woman. Can you please just tell us about that journey?
Of course, I think it's really important to look at the fact that not everybody's journey is linear, and mine definitely wasn't. If you said to me 20 years ago I would have done what I've done, I probably wouldn't have believed it. But I think what is important is that everybody takes their own journey to get to where they want. And for me, starting and building and then exiting companies helped me learn a lot of key skills. So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, how did you reach C-level as a woman? Or how do you reach C-level altogether? Like, what does that journey look like? How should I prepare myself for it? And that's why it's important to recognize that everyone takes a different route. For me, building and founding and then growing and exiting companies meant that I had to learn a lot of key skills quite early on that I maybe not have had to do if I'd picked a separate focus. So understanding P&L, understanding go-to-market, you learn quickly that sometimes you have to be your own sales and marketing and finance and accounts team, because if you're in a small business growing, you don't have a full team to rely on, and you have to develop those skills as you go. If I'd spent the last 20 years working in a corporate environment, I very much believe I could have reached the same place, but with a very different journey and skill set. So I think that building your own businesses and growing them gives you a very unique skill set around that, which I've been very grateful to have.
Incredible. And obviously, two key businesses that you've built and grown as well from the ground up. What additional skills would you say would be great for somebody who's looking at you from afar and thinking, how has she done that? What would you say to that?
I think there's a couple of key things to keep in mind. I think the first key thing is to build for value, not visibility. A lot of people will build a company thinking that that's what the world wants. But if you build something that people want, but you do it with excellence and you build it that way from the beginning, then people will buy from you and return to you consistently. And I think that's really important because the revenue quality matters just as much. I think confidence is vital, and that comes from clarity. So if you're going to do what we've done, what many other women have done, is you have to understand your market. You have to understand your product. You have to understand your offering for your customers. If you don't have that clarity, it's very, very hard to build that business with confidence and sell it with confidence. And when you're building your own business, as I mentioned before, you're one of its biggest salespeople. So you have to really do that. And I think resilience isn't optional. There is building from scratch comes with more than its fair share of knockdowns. I built my second business in the middle of a global pandemic, which has its own challenges, but there are challenges whenever you try and build something from scratch, whenever you try to take that from startup to scale up, or even in your own role when you're trying to move up or help a business build in the background, you're going to have your share of knockdowns, and they can be serious ones. I lost my business partner in my first business to cancer directly after losing my mum to cancer. And that was a massive knockdown, and it changed all our plans because we were building a lifestyle business to fit a gap in the market that we had seen. But what I had to do is take that lesson and pivot. And we did. We actually pivoted and started building it as a business to exit because it was no longer the business I'd originally started. Mm-hmm. So understanding that these knockdowns will happen and taking the good and the bad and taking each of them as a lesson is vital in building your own business, and even vital for anyone trying to further their career, because those knockdowns can set you back, and it's important that you take the lessons learned from them and that you move forward. And we'll probably talk about it a bit later, but to me, relationships. If you're looking to get on in your career, if you're looking to build a business, to build yourself, to build a brand, relationships are vital. It's important that you build strong relationships that support you and help enable your journey on that way.
Yeah, no, incredible. And you also spoke about when during your period of owning, exiting, and becoming a C-level female executive, you had to retrain as well into different niches. How did you navigate that?
I'm very lucky, and I think a lot of people see this as one of my key skills. Is I love learning. I've been an avid book reader since I was 3 years old, according to my mum.
Mm.
She taught me to read at a very young age, and I've always loved learning. If someone gives me a challenge, I want to learn everything about it. So that has helped me. But it's about embracing that new challenge because, like you said, I understood marketing and understood technology to an extent. I didn't understand the Microsoft channel. I had to learn that. I had never sold before we started iCube, so I had to learn how to sell. Turns out I'm actually quite natural at that because I love working with people. When we moved from my last sale and I moved into the chief marketing officer position, I thought I understood marketing. What I didn't understand was the technical aspect of marketing, SEO, and how you build that. So I had to go learn it because you can't expect a team that you're growing to do stuff that you don't understand. Otherwise, how can you ever know if they're doing it right or how to support or help them? So you need to have an avid love for learning. And if you see something that you think you can't do, you have to embrace it with two hands and think, yes, I can do that. I just need to understand it. Once you understand something, you can learn it. Once you learn it, you can become an expert in it.
Love that. Great quote. Definitely writing that one down. So thank you so much for that. And you obviously touched on it before, and we spoke around this. And considering 2% of women founded companies in the UK receive VC funding, you've now transitioned into a C-level role at Yavrio. So quite different to what you've previously done. What drew you to this challenge?
So you would think it is, but in a way it isn't because I'm also invested in Yavrio the same way I have been by other ones. The only difference is the other two businesses we started and I started from scratch. So like IEQ was designed because we saw a very specific gap in the market because cloud was coming to the fore and there weren't a lot of technology organizations really embracing that move to cloud. So we had a really easy, we know what we want to do, we know what we want to sell. We didn't realize till we started how resistant people were back then to cloud. It would surprise you now, but we knew what we wanted to do and we were able to scale and grow. Whereas a carry was a very different challenge because we built a carry to scale from day one and we understood what we were doing from day one. And it was born out of a mix of how do you take technology and how do you take inclusion. I'm the mother of a 20-year-old who has high functional autism, who's currently at university. And technology had been a massive bridge gapper for him as he was going through his school and his academic life. And I saw it also bridge a gap for people in work. And that's what Acari was originally created to do, was to be a technology company that takes advantage of emerging technologies to bridge that gap for inclusion accessibility. So these two businesses were something that I had helped grow from start, and I knew the vision from the start and I knew where we wanted to be. Where Yabri was very different is it was already very well established and growing in absolutely unbelievable momentum with the current leadership team. So they again had seen their own gap in the market. They understood that this product could fill a very substantial gap in that market. And what they were looking to do was now solidify the leadership team. So myself as CRO and they brought on a new CTO. What drew me to it was a number of things because I'd never looked at the VC thing before. So Yabri was a VC funded organization. They took seed funding last year. They're growing in a rapid momentum, which I hadn't seen. And it's product led. My entire career so far has been built around services. So moving that shift from services to product, there's a lot of people that say, I can't do that because I've only ever understood services. But to me, that was a new challenge. This is a company that's in the same space that I know and love inside and out, but they've built a product. They've built a product that can change the game. And that really attracted to me because of the way it sits and the product is strong, the ambition is global, and the timing is right. So to me, this was a very different challenge, but a very exciting challenge. And I will also admit that I think a big part of it was the team. For me and my roles, one thing that's always been really important to me is I need to know I'm making a difference. I need to know I'm moving that needle, not just for me, for other females and for my family and for the business that I'm working with. I need to know that what I'm doing is affecting where we're going. And at that point in time, when I was approached about Yavrio, it was a great company doing groundbreaking things, and I got to be a part of that. And it helps that the team are amazing. To me, it's really important that every stage that you work with a team that you like, that you have confidence in, that you have faith in and support you. The people you work with make such a big difference to what you're trying to do. So it was a mix of the right product, the right team at the right time with the right challenge. And I grasped it with both hands, and I'm very happy I did so.
Sounds incredible. Very excited to see how we can take it all. And just moving forward, we've spoke about this quote or saying that was put into the ether around women. Can women really have it all?
So we have spoke about this, and I hate that saying. It's because it's so limiting to me. We just talked about why I took the Avril challenge, and one of the reasons the Chief Revenue Officer part is important to me is we've also chatted about how few women are in a Chief Revenue position. I think when we looked at it, it was 1 in 8 just in the UK. So you have so many barriers that people think they can't overcome, and then people put this almost limiting statement on women. Can you really have it all? Can you really have a high-flying career and a loving and happy family and a successful personal life and lots of friends? And to me, it always seems like a challenge that they're trying to set up to fail. If a woman approaches that, then I think we're always going to approach it with failure. And I don't approach anything with failure. It's never been my mindset. To me, it's about what it all means to an individual, because what having it all means to you is very different to what having it all means to me. To me, I want to enjoy a role, and I want a role that makes a difference. But my family are the heart of every single thing I've ever done, and quality time with them is important. But it's also important to understand that when you're building businesses, when you're in an executive position, or when you're doing any job, then there are trade-offs, because sometimes work time means you have to sacrifice family time. Sometimes when you want to spend time with your family, you have to shut work off. And people start to fall into this guilt trap that they think, oh, I can't not answer my phone when I'm on a family holiday. Yes, you can, because at that point in time, your family has to be your priority. Just like when you're in work, your work has to be a priority, and you can't always pick everything up. But it's about balance. It's about recognizing what can wait and balancing that. So when I'm really busy at work, what I will try to do is that weekend, I'll prioritize time with my family. And that sometimes means that maybe I'm missing out on time with my friends, or maybe time just for me. So again, I have to make sure that I balance that up, because we sometimes forget in this drive to have it all, we forget ourselves. We forget that we're important. We forget that our well-being is tantamount to everything we do. If you're not in a good headspace, you're not going to be there for your work or your family. And I've been in that space. I think everybody, not just every woman, everybody's been in that space where they've got themselves worked up so much that they're no good to anybody. So to me, it's all about that balance. To me, having all means impact, the ability to make an impact in my role, the autonomy to do so. So having people around me that trust me to make the right decisions and lead, meaningful work that makes a difference, financial independence, family and community. But that definition changes, and my priorities will change depending on what I'm doing day to day. So there are seasons. There's times when work is the core focus, and then times when family is the core focus. Over the last few years, I've learned that sometimes it's about intense growth, and that intense growth will take intense focus and a lot of time. And other times it's about sustainability, and you balance accordingly. To me, the myth of having it all is that that balance should look perfect all the time, and it doesn't. But I think the real power for females is about owning your choices, owning your ambition, and not apologizing for them. Too many women apologize for having ambition, and you never should. Whether that ambition is to start your own business, do your best at your job, have the best family in the world, or read 52 books in a year, one of my challenges, you should never be afraid to own your own ambitions.
Love that. No, thank you so much for sharing that, Margaret. And in terms of, you mentioned before about support systems, that being very important to you and your family, how have you surrounded yourself with people who do support and enable you?
Yeah. Nobody gets here alone. I don't think anyone gets to any stage in their life where they're successful and they can honestly stand up and say they've done it themselves. And sometimes, by the way, where you get to isn't always about just your support, it's the lessons you've learned. But to me, there are very key people that have enabled my successes and are the reason that I sit where I am today. And the first part of that is my family and friends who understand my ambition and who have never made me apologise for it and have supported me at every stage. Sometimes that's about my mother, who was my main childcare for a long time before we lost her. My partner making sure that I don't have to worry, my husband, sorry, make sure I don't have to worry about anything so I can focus on my work. To friends who will pop in with a meal or a bouquet of flowers when I'm having a hard week. They understand how hard I work and how much it means to me, and they embrace that. To me, just as important are peers that challenge you without competing. I am so lucky that in the last 20 years, I've amassed an amazing group of people in the channel that I speak to sometimes daily. Sometimes I catch up with every now and again. Sometimes I'll see at an event. I'm at the AI Tour next week and I'm looking forward to seeing loads of people. But every single one of them has been a supporter or a cheerleader or someone who'll just tell me a hard truth when I need to hear it. And I think the peers in the channel are unbelievable in the Microsoft space. And I would not be sitting where I am without that support group. And I think a third part of it is boards and communities like Scotland Women Technology and the IMCP. I would honestly encourage anyone who's looking to grow within their role or even within themselves to look at where you can make an impact. And that might be a board role or a charity role, but it takes you outside the work perspective and it gives you a different challenge. It helps with relationship building. It helps you understand that there are other things out there than the sort of narrow focus you can get with work. And they're just great learning experiences. I count the people on both boards as personal friends now. And most of the peers that I've met in the channel now, I've made some of my best friends within the channel that I speak to on a regular basis who know me and my family. And that support network is part of the reason why I'm where I am today.
Yeah, no, it's incredible as well, especially looking outside of work and seeing the impact you can make. And no, that's incredible. And we're so lucky to have such a strong community, especially across Microsoft. And just closing off in terms of one final piece of advice or nugget that you'd like to share, Margaret, what can you say?
I would say don't wait until you're ready or don't wait till things are perfect. Confidence usually comes after you step into the role. So we talked about Gabriel. I could have talked myself out of that role. I'm not product, I'm services. I don't know fintech. But so many people, particularly women, say no because their skill sets don't match or don't really fit the brief. I remember once reading a stat that only 2 of 10 women will go for a job if they don't meet like 5 or more of the criteria, etc. To me, that's never been me. It's always old saying you only lose 100% of the chances you don't take. So to me, I would say yes before you're 100% sure. Surround yourself with people that will help you learn. And remember, you don't have to fit a particular mold to lead, and just learn as you go. As long as you're willing to embrace it, don't wait until the circumstances or the conditions are perfect, because you might miss that opportunity and you might look back and think, if I had just taken that, where would I be just now? So don't wait till you're ready. If there's one thing I want women to take away from this, it's that ambition isn't something to dilute, it's something we own, and we should take the chances that when we see them in front of us and never second guess ourselves.
Thank you so much, Margaret. That was incredible. And I just want to really thank you for being part of this International Women's Day series. It's been incredible getting to know you and sharing your information. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.